The stars looked peaceful through the window of the New Horizon colony ship. Captain Rodriguez stood on the bridge watching the distant lights. After 200 years of dreaming, humanity had finally reached for the stars. The ship carried 500 souls toward Proxima Centauri, where they would build Earth's first colony on another world. Dr. Marcus Chen sat in the science lab, reviewing data on his screen. As the ship's xenobiologist, his job was to study any life they might find on the new planet. He was excited but also nervous. What if they were not alone out here? What if something else lived among the stars? The alarm came without warning. Red lights flashed across every corridor. The ship's computer voice spoke in a calm tone that made the words even more terrifying. Unknown vessels approaching. Multiple contacts. Hostile intent detected. Marcus ran to the window. His heart pounded in his chest. 3 massive ships moved toward them like hunting sharks. They were nothing like human vessels. These ships looked organic, covered in sharp angles and strange armor that seemed to breathe. They were beautiful and horrible at the same time. Battle stations, Rodriguez shouted. But the New Horizon was not a warship. It was a colony vessel, slow and full of families. They had some weapons, but nothing that could fight these monsters. The alien ships fired, not missiles or lasers, but something else. Electromagnetic pulses that shut down the New Horizon's engines in seconds. The colony ship went dark. Emergency lights flickered on, casting red shadows everywhere. Marcus heard screaming from the corridors. He grabbed a flashlight and ran toward the sound. People rushed past him, panicking. Children cried. Someone fell and he helped them up. Then he saw them. The aliens broke through the airlock doors like they were paper. They stood 7 feet tall on 4 legs with bodies covered in chitinous armor. Their heads had too many eyes, all black and shining. Multiple arms ended in sharp claws. They looked like giant insects but moved with terrible intelligence and purpose. Marcus froze. He had studied biology his whole life, but nothing prepared him for this. These were not animals. They were soldiers. The alien soldiers moved through the ship with brutal efficiency. Anyone who fought back died quickly. Marcus watched in horror as they killed 3 security officers who tried to defend the bridge. The aliens used weapons that fired crystalline shards. The shards cut through armor and flesh like they were nothing. Do not resist, Rodriguez shouted. Everyone stand down. That is an order. The aliens started grabbing people. They seemed to choose randomly, pulling humans from the crowd. Marcus tried to hide behind some equipment, but one of the aliens spotted him. It moved faster than anything that size should move. 4 arms grabbed him, lifting him off the ground. Marcus struggled, but it was useless. The alien's grip felt like steel bands around his arms and chest. Its face came close to his. He could smell it, a sharp chemical scent that burned his nose. Multiple eyes studied him with cold intelligence. The alien made clicking sounds. Others responded. They were talking, Marcus realized. They had language. They had culture. And they were treating humans like cattle. Marcus and 30 other humans were dragged to the alien ships. He saw Sarah Okonkwo, one of the ship's engineers, fighting against her captors. She managed to break free for a moment, but 3 aliens tackled her. Even then, she kept fighting until they stunned her with some kind of electric prod. Marcus memorized everything he could. The layout of the alien ship, the symbols on the walls, the way the aliens moved and communicated. If he survived this, the information might be useful. The alien ship was massive inside. The corridors were too tall for humans, designed for creatures with 4 legs and vertical bodies. Everything was cold and hard, made of strange metals and organic materials fused together. Lights pulsed in patterns that made Marcus dizzy. They were thrown into a large chamber. The walls were transparent on one side, showing the emptiness of space. The New Horizon floated in the distance, damaged but not destroyed. Marcus wondered if anyone aboard was still alive. He hoped so. An alien approached the transparent wall. This one wore different markings on its armor. It studied the humans the way Marcus had once studied insects in a lab. The alien's attitude was clear. They were specimens, nothing more. Marcus stood up slowly. His body hurt from being grabbed, but nothing was broken. He approached the transparent wall, meeting the alien's multiple-eyed gaze. The alien tilted its head, surprised that a captive would approach. Marcus pointed to himself. Marcus, he said clearly. He pointed at the alien and made a questioning gesture. The alien made clicking sounds that might have been laughter. It did not respond. Instead, it made notes on a device it carried. To this creature, Marcus was not a person. He was a specimen to be catalogued. The journey took 3 days. The aliens fed them something that tasted terrible but kept them alive. Marcus spent the time observing. He watched the aliens work, noting their routines and habits. He noticed they communicated through both sound and smell. When one alien became agitated, its scent changed and others responded immediately. He also talked quietly with the other captives. Sarah Okonkwo introduced herself properly. Before becoming an engineer, she had served in Earth's Special Forces during the Pacific conflicts. She had combat training and a sharp mind for tactics. "They think we are weak," Sarah whispered. "They killed anyone who fought, but they kept anyone who surrendered." "They want us alive for something." "Probably study," Marcus replied. "They are treating us like lab animals, which means they have never met humans before. They do not know what we can do." "And what can we do?" asked another captive, a young man named Tom who was shaking with fear. Marcus looked at Sarah. She looked back with hard eyes. "We survive," she said. "And we learn. Every day we are alive is another day we gather information. Earth will come looking for us. We just need to stay alive until then." The alien ship finally arrived at a planet. It was massive, with 3 moons and rings of ice that caught the system's red sun. The planet's surface was covered in hive-like structures that stretched for hundreds of miles. This was the home of their captors. The humans were transferred to a facility that looked like a research center. Marcus had seen places like this before on Earth, places where animals were kept and studied. His stomach turned. That was what they were now. Animals in a zoo. They were separated into individual cells. Each cell was transparent on 3 sides, allowing observation from all angles. The cells had basic beds, a waste facility, and a food dispenser. Nothing else. No privacy. No dignity. Marcus sat on his bed and thought. He was a scientist. He understood research methodology. These aliens would start with basic observations, physical measurements, behavioral tests. Then they would get more invasive. Probably dissection eventually. He had to find a way to turn that against them. They wanted to study humans? Fine. He would teach them exactly why they should have left humanity alone. But first, he needed to understand his enemy. Marcus pressed his face to the transparent wall and watched the aliens work. They moved with purpose, following routines. They used devices that Marcus did not recognize, but the principles of scientific inquiry were universal. Hypothesis, test, observation, conclusion. The lead researcher approached Marcus's cell. It was larger than the soldiers, with more elaborate markings on its chitinous armor. It carried multiple devices and studied Marcus with clinical interest. Marcus stood and approached the wall. He made eye contact with as many of the aliens' eyes as he could. He needed them to see him as intelligent, not just a specimen. Understanding flowed both ways. The alien made clicking sounds and waved a device at Marcus. A screen appeared in the air between them, showing various images. Marcus realized it was trying to establish communication. The alien showed images of stars, planets, ships. It was asking where humans came from. Marcus pointed up toward the stars. He held up fingers, trying to indicate distance. The alien watched, recording everything. After several minutes, it clicked with satisfaction and walked away. Marcus smiled grimly. First contact had been made. Now came the hard part. That night, if night even existed in this place, Marcus could not sleep. He counted 23 other species in nearby cells. Most looked defeated, lying motionless in their enclosures. They had been here longer. They had given up hope. Marcus refused to give up. He was human. His species had climbed from caves to stars through sheer stubborn will. His ancestors had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters. They had never quit. He would not be the first. He thought about Earth, about his family. His daughter was only 10 years old. She wanted to be a scientist like him. He had promised to send her messages from Proxima. He intended to keep that promise somehow. Marcus Chen stood in his cell and made a silent vow. These aliens had made a terrible mistake. They thought they captured a specimen. They did not realize they had just given humanity a reason to come to the stars in force, and when humans came, they would bring justice for every species suffering in this facility. The days blurred together in the research facility. Marcus lost count after the first week. Time felt meaningless when every day was the same routine of tests and observations. The aliens, who Marcus had started calling the Zathran, after hearing their clicking communication, treated him like a particularly interesting insect. The lead researcher, whom Marcus nicknamed Kist because of the distinctive sound it made, visited his cell every morning. Kist would run the same tests: physical measurements, reaction time assessments, problem-solving puzzles. Marcus initially tried to demonstrate human intelligence, solving every puzzle quickly. Then he realized his mistake. If the Zathran thought humans were too intelligent, they might decide humans were too dangerous. Marcus started deliberately failing some tests. Not all of them, that would be suspicious, but enough to seem unremarkable. Average, safe. Meanwhile, he memorized everything about the facility. The facility was built in a spiral pattern. Marcus's cell was in Section 7 of 12 sections radiating from a central hub. Each section held different species. The Zathran researchers rotated between sections on a strict schedule. Guards patrolled every 4 hours. Marcus counted their steps, timed their routes, noted which guards were more alert than others. Kust seemed puzzled by human biology. It would spend hours studying Marcus through the transparent wall, making notes on its floating data screens. Once it brought 3 other researchers. They clicked and chittered at each other, gesturing at Marcus like doctors discussing a strange disease. Marcus understood why they were confused. Compared to the Zathran, humans seemed weak. The Zathran had natural armor, multiple arms, powerful legs. Humans had soft skin that damaged easily. But the Zathran were missing something important. They judged strength by the wrong standards. One day, Kazet ran a new test. The wall of Marcus's cell opened, and he was led down several corridors to a large chamber. Inside was an obstacle course. Walls to climb, gaps to jump, puzzles to solve. Marcus understood immediately. They wanted to measure his physical capabilities. He approached the course carefully. The walls were tall but had handholds. The gaps were wide but jumpable. Everything was designed for the 4-legged Zathran body structure, which made it awkward for humans. Marcus took a deep breath and ran the course. He climbed using techniques from his college rock climbing days. He jumped with proper form, tucking his legs for distance. He solved the puzzles using pattern recognition. At the end, he was breathing hard but completed the course in reasonable time. The Zathran researchers clicked with what Marcus interpreted as disappointment. He had not failed, but he had not impressed them either. One researcher made a dismissive gesture. Marcus smiled inside. Perfect. They saw him as mediocre, unremarkable. But then something happened that changed everything. A young Zathran worker, smaller and less armored than the soldiers, entered Marcus's cell to replace his food dispenser. The worker was clumsy, dropping tools and fumbling with the equipment. Marcus stayed in the corner, trying not to appear threatening. The worker finished the installation and turned to leave. But it had dropped one of its tools, a small electronic scanner that had rolled under Marcus's bed. The worker looked around, confused about where the tool went. Marcus saw it under the bed. He could have said nothing, but curiosity and the chance to communicate made him reach under the bed and retrieve the tool. He held it out to the worker. The young Zathran froze. Its multiple eyes widened. Slowly, carefully, it reached out and took the tool from Marcus's hand. Their fingers touched for just a moment. The Zathran's exoskeleton felt smooth and warm, nothing like Marcus expected. The worker clicked softly, a sound different from the harsh commands Marcus usually heard. It almost sounded like "thank you." Then it left quickly, glancing back at Marcus with what might have been wonder. That small interaction gave Marcus hope. Not all Zathran saw him as an object. Some could recognize cooperation. That was useful information. Later that week, something violent happened in another section of the facility. Marcus heard alarms and shouting in the Zathran language. Through his transparent walls, he saw soldiers running toward Section 3. Smoke rose from that direction. One of the captive species had tried to escape. Marcus never learned what species it was. He only saw the aftermath when soldiers dragged a body past his cell. The escape had failed and the price was death. The Zathran increased security after that. More guards, more frequent patrols, random cell inspections. Her seemed agitated when it visited Marcus the next day. It ran stress tests trying to see if Marcus would also attempt escape. Marcus stayed calm. He cooperated with every test. He showed no signs of aggression or panic. But inside, his mind was racing. The escape attempt proved something important. It was possible to move between sections. There were weaknesses in the security system. The question was finding them without dying in the process. Marcus started paying more attention to the other captive species. In the cell to his left was a being he called Velkari. It looked like a six-limbed lizard covered in blue scales. The Velkari spent most of its time lying motionless, apparently sleeping or possibly depressed. But one day Marcus noticed the Velkari watching the guards. Its eyes tracked their movements with sharp intelligence. It was not depressed. It was observing just like Marcus. Marcus tried to communicate. He had no shared language, but gestures could convey meaning. He pointed to himself, then to the Velkari, then made a gesture of working together. The Velkari's eyes narrowed. Then it slowly nodded, a gesture that apparently meant the same thing in its culture. Over the following days, Marcus and the Velkari developed a simple sign language. Marcus learned the Velkari's name was something like Stick. Stick had been captured 6 months ago from a mining colony. It was an engineer skilled with technology and machinery. Stick drew pictures in the condensation on the cell walls, pictures of the facility's layout, of guard rotations, of the ventilation systems. It had been planning an escape for months. It just needed help, a partner who could reach things in places designed for bipedal creatures instead of six-limbed ones. Marcus felt excitement for the first time in weeks. But he was also cautious. One failed escape already ended in death. They needed more information, more time, and most importantly, more allies. Then everything changed when Kazat brought a new test subject into the facility. Marcus was in his cell when he heard commotion from the intake area. New arrivals always created activity. The Zathran researchers loved fresh specimens. But this commotion sounded different. There was conflict, fighting. Guards rushed past Marcus's cell carrying weapons. He heard the distinctive crack of Zathran stunners firing. Someone was resisting capture, and doing it effectively enough to require multiple guards. An hour later, they dragged a human past Marcus's cell. A woman, unconscious from the stunners, but Marcus recognized her immediately. Sarah Okonkwo, the engineer from the New Horizon who had fought when they were first captured. They put Sarah in the cell directly across from Marcus. He watched as she slowly regained consciousness, her body jerking as the stunner effects wore off. She sat up, looked around, and her eyes immediately found Marcus. Recognition flashed across her face. Then anger. Then calculation. Sarah Okonkwo was a survivor, and her military training was obvious in how quickly she assessed her situation. Marcus waited until the guards completed their rounds. Then he moved to the front of his cell and got Sarah's attention. He used simple hand signals: stay calm, observe, learn. Sarah nodded. She understood. Over the next 2 days, Marcus caught Sarah up on everything he had learned. The facility layout, the guard rotations, the testing procedures, the other species. He introduced her to Systic through gestures. Sarah's tactical mind immediately started seeing possibilities. But Sarah brought something even more valuable than tactical knowledge. She brought hope. Earth knows, she whispered during a moment when guards were far away. Her voice barely carried across the space between cells. The New Horizon sent a distress signal before they took us. The Navy is coming. But it could take months to reach this far. Months. Marcus felt despair and hope warring in his chest. Months meant they had to survive that long. But it also meant rescue was possible. Then we wait, Marcus said. We learn. We prepare. When Earth arrives, we need to be ready to help ourselves. No, Sarah said, her voice hard as steel. We do not just wait. These things killed people from our ship. They have killed people from dozens of species. We gather intelligence, we find weaknesses, and when the time is right, we make sure Earth knows exactly how to hurt these bastards. Kiz chose that moment to begin the most revealing test yet. The lead researcher appeared at Marcus's cell with several assistants. They opened the cell door and gestured for Marcus to follow. He had no choice but to comply. They led him to a medical chamber. The walls were covered in instruments that looked disturbingly surgical. Marcus's heart raced, but he forced himself to stay calm. Panic would not help. The Zathran strapped him to an examination table. Not painfully, but securely. Kazit approached with a device that looked like a needle. Marcus braced himself for pain, but instead felt only a small pressure as the needle drew blood. For the next hour, Kazist ran tests on Marcus's blood. The opportunity came 3 weeks after Sarah's arrival. Kazut decided to run an experiment that would prove to be the Zathran's biggest mistake. Marcus was brought to a large chamber he had never seen before. Sarah was already there, along with 4 other humans from the New Horizon who Marcus barely recognized. They all looked thin and tired, but alive. That was something. The chamber was a simulation room. Walls could change shape, creating different environments. Obstacles could rise from the floor. It was designed to test species under various conditions. Kurt stood behind a protective, transparent barrier with several other researchers. Through a translator device that crackled with static, Cuz's voice filled the room. Humans show unusual stress response. We will test combat behavior, survive and be returned to cells, fail and become subjects for anatomical study. The threat was clear, survive or die. Marcus looked at Sarah, her face was calm, almost relaxed. This was her element. Combat and survival were things she trained for her whole military career. The room changed. Walls rose, creating corridors and obstacles. Then hatches opened in the ceiling. 4 combat drones dropped into the chamber. They were spider-like machines with multiple weapons, designed to test how species fought and fled. The drones were not meant to kill immediately. They were meant to wound, to panic, to study fear responses. But the Zathran researchers made a critical error. They put 6 humans in a room together and gave them a common threat. They gave humans exactly what humans evolved to handle, a pack hunt situation, except the humans were the ones being hunted. Scatter, Sarah shouted. The humans immediately moved in different directions. It was not panic. It was tactics. The drones could not track all 6 targets at once. Marcus ran behind a raised wall section. His heart pounded. Adrenaline flooded his system. His hands shook, but his mind became sharper. This was the human stress response in action. The same response that let ancient humans chase prey for days until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. A drone followed Marcus. It fired a stunning projectile that missed him by inches. Marcus kept running, not in a straight line, but weaving unpredictably. The drone's targeting system was designed for species that ran in predictable patterns. Humans did not. Sarah appeared from behind another obstacle. She had found a broken piece of metal flooring and wielded it like a club. As the drone focused on Marcus, Sarah attacked from its blind spot. She struck the drone's sensor array with precise force. The drone staggered. Its movements became erratic. Sarah struck again, this time hitting a joint in its leg structure. The drone collapsed, sparking. Marcus. 9 o'clock, Sarah shouted. Marcus turned. Another drone approached. But now he understood. These drones were designed to hunt alone, not to coordinate. Another evolutionary difference. Zathran soldiers fought individually. Humans fought as units. Marcus grabbed a piece of debris and threw it at the drone. The throw was not meant to damage, just to distract. The drone's weapons tracked the debris. In that half-second of distraction, another human, a young woman named Chen, tackled the drone from the side. The drone was heavy, but Chen used its momentum against it, a move straight from martial arts training. The drone toppled. Marcus rushed forward and stomped on its optical sensors. The drone went blind, firing randomly. Behind the protective barrier, the Zathran researchers were chittering frantically. This was not going according to their predictions. The humans were supposed to panic, to run individually, to be easily subdued by superior technology. Instead, they were coordinating without words, using tactics the Zathran had never seen. The remaining 2 drones adapted, moving to attack together. But Sarah had already anticipated this. She gathered the humans into a tight circle, everyone watching a different direction. When I say move, we all rush the left drone together. All of us, overwhelming force, Sarah commanded. The others nodded. They trusted her instantly. This was another human trait the Zathran did not understand. Humans could establish leadership in seconds during crisis situations. Now, Sarah charged. All 6 humans moved as one mass. The left drone tried to target multiple threats but could not decide which was most dangerous. The humans hit it together, a combined weight of over 400 kilograms moving at full speed. The drone did not stand a chance. It went down under the group assault. Humans pulled at its components, breaking them with desperate strength enhanced by adrenaline. One man, a former mechanic, found the drone's power cell and ripped it out. The drone died. The final drone backed away. Its programming recognized a losing situation. But it was trapped in the chamber with 6 humans who now understood that cooperation meant survival. Marcus noticed something. In the chaos, the broken drones had damaged the wall panel, Behind it, he saw wiring and conduits. Infrastructure. The facility's actual structure lay behind these simulation walls. Sarah. Marcus pointed. Sarah saw it immediately. Her eyes lit up with possibilities. The final drone attacked. But now the humans were ready. They used the same pack tactics. Distraction from 3 sides while 3 others attacked weak points. The drone fought well, managing to stun 1 human before it fell. But it did fall. Silence filled the chamber. 6 humans stood among 4 destroyed drones. They were breathing hard, some bleeding from minor wounds, but victorious. Behind the barrier, the Zathran researchers were absolutely still. Kazit's voice came through the translator, and for the first time, Marcus heard something in it that might have been fear. Return subjects to cells, immediately, all of them. Guards flooded into the chamber, twice as many as before. They kept their weapons trained on the humans while escort drones surrounded them. The humans were separated and led back to their individual cells. But the damage was done. The Zathran had learned something they did not want to know. Humans were pack hunters. Humans coordinated instinctively. Humans adapted to threats in real time. And humans, when threatened, became more dangerous, not less. That evening, Marcus watched through his cell walls as the Zathran held what appeared to be an emergency meeting. Dozens of researchers and military officers gathered in the central hub. Their body language showed agitation. Kust gestured emphatically at data displays showing footage from the combat test. Marcus could not understand their language, but he understood the debate. Some wanted to kill the humans immediately, some wanted more study. The military officers looked concerned, probably recognizing a potential threat. Across the corridor, Sarah caught Marcus's attention. She used hand signals to communicate. Tonight. Be ready. Marcus's heart raced. Tonight for what? But Sarah's expression was certain. She had a plan. As darkness fell, or what passed for darkness in the facility with its dimmed lighting, Marcus stayed alert. Hours passed. The guard rotations continued normally. Then, at what Marcus estimated was 3 in the morning, something changed. The ventilation system started making unusual sounds. Not broken, but different. Someone was manipulating it. Marcus looked at Sesthic's cell. The Velkari engineer was awake, its 6 limbs working at something in the corner of its cell where the ventilation grate was located. Then Marcus smelled it. A sharp chemical odor that made his eyes water. It was spreading through the ventilation system. Marcus quickly tore a piece of fabric from his clothing and covered his nose and mouth. The smell was familiar. It was similar to ammonia, the kind used in cleaning products. The smell reached the guard station. Marcus heard the Zathran guards making distressed sounds. Their communication, which relied partly on pheromones, was being disrupted by the chemical smell. They could not understand each other properly. More importantly, the chemical affected their coordination. Zathran soldiers relied on pheromone signals to work together. Without clear signals, they became confused, bumping into each other, giving contradictory orders. Alarms started blaring. But the alarms only added to the confusion. The facility had never been attacked from inside. All their security was designed to prevent escape, not to handle internal sabotage. Marcus's cell door suddenly opened. He spun around ready to fight, but saw the young Zathran worker, the one who had dropped its tool weeks ago. The worker held a control device and gestured frantically for Marcus to follow. Marcus had seconds to decide. Trust this alien or stay imprisoned. He thought about the moment they shared, the simple act of returning a tool. Sometimes trust had to start somewhere. Marcus ran from his cell. The corridor was chaos. Other cell doors were opening. Sesthik emerged along with several other alien captives. Sarah appeared, immediately taking in the situation with tactical precision. The worker is helping us, Marcus shouted to Sarah. Follow its lead. The young Zathran led them through corridors Marcus had never seen. They moved fast, taking advantage of the confusion. Behind them, Marcus heard guards trying to organize a pursuit, but their communication remained disrupted. They passed through a door marked with Zathran symbols. Inside was a storage area filled with equipment. The worker pointed at containers. Sesthik opened one and clicked with excitement. Tools, engineering equipment, things that could be used to break through doors or disable security systems. Sarah grabbed what looked like weapons, the same crystalline shard shooters the Zathran soldiers used. She checked one expertly, figuring out its mechanism in seconds. Sarah raised her weapon and charged. The dozen Zathran guards did not expect such a direct assault. They were trained to fight enemies who valued self-preservation above objectives. Humans valued objectives above everything else. Marcus followed, his heart hammering. Around him, the freed captives from multiple species joined the desperate attack. They had nothing to lose. For many of them, this facility had been their prison for months or years. Better to die fighting than to die as specimens. The battle was chaos. Crystal shards flew in all directions. The sound was deafening in the enclosed space. Marcus saw one of the tentacled aliens take a shard to its center mass. It collapsed but kept crawling forward, using its last strength to trip a guard so Sarah could shoot it. Stick moved with surprising speed for its size, using all 6 limbs to climb walls and attack from unexpected angles. The Zathran guards were not prepared for 3-dimensional combat. The Velkari engineer's claws found weak points in armor, in joints in the soft tissue between chitinous plates. Marcus ducked behind a console as shards sparked off its surface. His hands shook with adrenaline and fear. He had to move. The communications terminal was just 20 meters away across open ground covered by guard fire. He looked at Sarah. She was pinned behind another console, bleeding from a wound on her shoulder. But her eyes were clear and focused. She met Marcus's gaze and nodded. She knew what he was thinking. Sarah stood and fired, drawing attention to herself. Every guard turned their weapons toward her. It was the opening Marcus needed. He ran, time seemed to slow. Marcus was aware of everything, his feet hitting the floor, his breath burning in his lungs, the sound of weapons fire behind him. A crystal shard passed so close to his head that he felt the air move. Another hit the ground at his feet. He dove the last 2 meters, sliding across the smooth floor to the communications terminal. His shoulder hit the console's base hard enough to bruise, but he was alive. He was there. The terminal displayed Zathran script that Marcus could not read, but interfaces followed logical patterns. He looked for anything that resembled a transmission icon, a broadcast symbol, something universal to communication systems. Behind him, the battle continued. He heard Sestic make a sound of pain. The young Zathran worker who had freed them was shouting something in its language, trying to stop the guards from killing everyone. Marcus found what looked like a transmission control. He activated it. The screen changed, showing frequency options. He had to get this right. He needed to broadcast on channels that Earth ships would monitor, but also on channels the other enslaved species might access. A shadow fell over him. Marcus looked up to see Ket standing there, having emerged from a side entrance. The lead researcher held a weapon, but its multiple hands shook. It was a scientist, not a soldier. Stop, Kazit said through a translator device. You do not understand what you are doing. You will cause war. Millions will die. Marcus stood slowly, keeping himself between Kazust and the terminal. Millions are already dying, he said. In facilities like this? In conquered systems. You started this war when you decided other species existed only for your study and exploitation. We are superior, Kazit insisted. We have every right to study lesser species. The strong rule. This is the way of the universe. No, Marcus said firmly. That is the way of predators. Humans know about predators. We spent millions of years being prey. We learned to think because we had to outsmart things that wanted to eat us. We learned to cooperate because alone we died. We learned to remember because forgetting meant making the same fatal mistake twice. Marcus gestured at the chaos behind him. You studied us like we were animals, but you forgot the most important thing about humans. We are not just smart animals. We are the animals that other animals learn to fear. We are the persistence hunters who never stop coming. We are the pack that protects its own, and most dangerous of all, we remember every wrong and we never forgive conquest. Kazit's weapon wavered. One human cannot defeat the Dominion. One message will not end an empire that spans 47 systems. You are right, Marcus agreed. One human cannot. But I am not alone. There are billions of humans, and now there will be a message telling them exactly where you are, what you have done, and how to hurt you. Marcus's hand found the broadcast activation. You made a mistake, Kist. You taught me about your species. You showed me your communication systems. You demonstrated your weapons. You revealed your weaknesses. And you did all of this thinking I was just a specimen who would never escape to use that information. Wait, Kazit started to say. Marcus activated the transmission. Every speaker in the facility erupted with sound. He spoke clearly, knowing the transmission was going out on multiple frequencies, in multiple directions, to anyone who might be listening across the stars. This is Dr. Marcus Chen, xenobiologist, Earth Vessel New Horizon. To any human forces receiving this transmission, we are alive, but we need help. Coordinates are encoded in this signal. This facility belongs to the Zathran Dominion, a species that has conquered and enslaved 23 other intelligent species. They capture, study, and dissect living beings. They view other life as specimens, not people. Marcus pulled up the data files he saw on the terminal and began transmitting. I am sending complete facility schematics, guard rotations, weapon specifications. Most importantly, the Zathran rely on pheromone communication for coordination. Disrupt their chemical signals and their military becomes disorganized. They have no backup communication system. This is their critical weakness. He switched transmission focus. To all species held captive by the Zathran Dominion, you are not alone. Humans are coming. But more than that, this message contains the proof that the Zathran can be beaten. We are doing it right now. A handful of captives are fighting an entire research facility. The Zathran are not invincible. They are not superior. They are just another species that let their technology make them arrogant. Rise up, fight back. We will help you. Marcus looked directly at Kazet. And to the Zathran Dominion, you seized a human. You thought you caught a specimen, but you have awakened something you should have left sleeping. Humanity is coming, and we are bringing every species you have wronged with us. You started this war. We will finish it, Kust fired. The crystal shard hit Marcus in the chest. Pain exploded through his body. He fell backward, blood spreading across his shirt. The terminal continued transmitting his message on a loop, but Marcus could no longer see it. His vision was fading. He heard Sarah screaming his name. He heard gunfire. He heard Kust make a sound of surprise, then pain. Sarah must have shot the researcher. Good. Marcus felt hands on him. Sarah's face appeared above him, tight with controlled panic. She was pressing something against his chest, trying to stop the bleeding. Stay with me, Marcus, she commanded. You hear me? You are not dying in this facility. Earth is coming. You need to see it. Marcus tried to speak, but only managed a wet cough. Blood filled his mouth. The shard had hit something vital. His doctor's training told him the injury was likely fatal without immediate advanced medical care. But he had done it. The message was sent. Earth would receive it. Every enslaved species would receive it. The galaxy would learn that the Zathran could be beaten. Sistik appeared next to Sarah. The Velkari engineer's scales were darkened with blood, some of it probably its own. But it was alive. It clicked something at Sarah, gesturing at Marcus's wound. Can you help him? Sarah asked desperately. Stick examined the wound and made a negative gesture. The crystal shard had damaged too much. Marcus was dying, and everyone knew it. The young Zathran worker pushed through the crowd of freed captives. It carried a medical device, something from the facility's research supplies. It clicked urgently at Sistik, who translated the meaning through gestures. The device could stabilize Marcus temporarily. Keep him alive for maybe an hour, maybe more, long enough for help to arrive if help was coming. Do it, Marcus whispered. He wanted to see what happened next. He wanted to know if his sacrifice meant something. The worker applied the device to Marcus's chest. Cool energy flowed into the wound. The pain diminished slightly. Marcus could breathe a bit easier. It was temporary, but it was something. Around them, the battle had ended. The guards were dead or had fled. The central hub was controlled by the freed captives. Alarms still blared, but no reinforcements arrived. The facility's communication system was down, which meant the guards could not call for help from other Zathran military bases. Sarah worked the communications terminal, using her military training to expand the range of Marcus's message. She boosted the signal, set it to repeat on all frequencies, and encrypted it so only human military codes could decode the detailed tactical information. Message is spreading, Sarah reported. I am picking up responses. Human ships are acknowledging receipt. Estimated arrival time is 14 hours. 14 hours. Marcus had to survive 14 hours. He closed his eyes, focusing on breathing. Each breath was harder than the last. The freed captives organized themselves. Those with medical knowledge worked on the wounded. Those with technical skills secured the facility and disabled remaining security systems. Those with combat training prepared for counterattack. Marcus woke in a medical bay. For a moment he panicked, thinking he was still in the Zathran facility. But the walls were white. not the organic gray of alien architecture. The equipment hummed with familiar sounds, and the air smelled like antiseptic, that sharp, clean smell of human hospitals. "Welcome back, Dr. Chen," a voice said. Marcus turned his head, wincing at the stiffness. A human doctor stood beside his bed, checking monitors. "You have been unconscious for 3 days. Your injuries were severe, but we got to you in time. You are going to make a full recovery." Marcus tried to speak, but his throat was too dry. The doctor gave him water. After a few sips, Marcus managed to ask, "Where am I?" "Earth Defense Force Medical Ship Mercy. We are currently in orbit around the Zathran homeworld." The doctor smiled. "A lot has happened since we pulled you out of that facility. You might want to sit up for this." The bed adjusted automatically, raising Marcus to a sitting position. Through the window of his medical bay, he saw space, and floating in that space were dozens of ships. Human ships, yes, but also vessels from designs Marcus did not recognize. Ships from other species. What happened? Marcus asked. The doctor called for someone. A moment later, Sarah Okonkwo entered. She looked different, cleaner, her hair cut military short. She wore an Earth Defense Force uniform now with new insignia Marcus did not recognize. She smiled when she saw Marcus awake. "You happened," Sarah said, sitting in a chair beside his bed. "Your message reached Earth within hours. But it did not just reach Earth. You broadcast on so many frequencies that every species within range picked it up, including the 23 species the Zathran had conquered." Sarah pulled up a holographic display. It showed a map of local space. Marcus recognized the Zathran Dominion, the large cluster of 47 systems colored in red. But as he watched, those systems began changing color. Some turned blue for human-aligned, others turned green, yellow, purple, representing different species. "Within 2 days of your message, uprisings began across every Zathran-controlled system," Sarah explained. The enslaved species finally had proof that the Zathran could be beaten. They had tactical information about Zathran weaknesses. They had hope, and they used it. The holographic display showed the Zathran Dominion fracturing. Systems declared independence. Slave populations overthrew their Zathran governors. Supply lines were cut. Military fleets found themselves stranded without support. The Dominion tried to respond with force, Sarah continued. But their military was designed to fight external threats, not internal rebellions across 47 systems simultaneously. Every time they sent forces to suppress one uprising, 2 more would start. They simply did not have enough soldiers. Marcus watched the map, stunned. "We destroyed an empire with one message?" "You gave the galaxy the truth," Sarah said. "That the Zathran were not superior. That they could be beaten. That their power came from technology and fear, not from any actual superiority. Once everyone knew that, the empire could not stand. Fear only works if people believe it." A new voice spoke from the doorway. "You also gave us their complete military specifications, economic data, and political intelligence." That helped quite a bit too. Marcus looked up to see Admiral Zhang enter. She was a tall woman with gray hair and the bearing of someone who had commanded ships for decades. She studied Marcus with approval. "Dr. Chen, you are awake. Good, I have been waiting to thank you personally. Your actions at that facility saved not just human lives, but thousands of lives across multiple species. The intelligence you transmitted has given us a complete picture of Zathrian operations. We could not have dismantled their empire so quickly without it." "I just sent a message," Marcus said weakly. "Sarah and the others did the fighting." "You did more than send a message," Admiral Zhang corrected. "You proved something that the galaxy needed to see. That humans do not abandon our own. That we will cross the stars to rescue even one person. Every species that was watching learned that humanity makes powerful allies and terrible enemies." The Admiral gestured at the window. "That is why they are here. 17 different species have sent diplomatic vessels. They want to establish relations with Earth. They want to join a coalition against the Zathran. Some want to form permanent alliances. Your actions have changed the entire political structure of this region of space." Marcus felt overwhelmed. He had just been trying to survive, to do something that mattered. He never imagined the consequences would be this large. "What about the Zathran?" he asked. "Did we wipe them out?" "No," Sarah answered. "And we did not try to. That would make us as bad as them. The Zathran Dominion has collapsed. They control only 3 systems now, including their homeworld where we are currently negotiated. The other 44 systems are free. Many have formed a coalition government with Earth's help." Admiral Zhang continued. The Zathran High Command sued for peace after their military was shattered. We accepted with conditions. They must free all captive species. They must close all research facilities like the one that held you. They must submit to oversight by a council of the species they formerly enslaved. And they must face justice for their war crimes. War crimes, Marcus echoed. The facilities, Sarah said quietly. We found hundreds of them. Thousands of captives. The things they did to other species in the name of research. She trailed off, her face hard. The galaxy has established a tribunal. Zathran researchers and military commanders are being charged with crimes against sentient life. The trials will take years. Marcus thought about Kezet, the lead researcher who shot him. Some of them were just scientists doing what their culture taught them was right. And some Nazis were just following orders, Sarah replied sharply. That is not an excuse. The Zathran chose to view other species as objects. They chose to dissect living beings. They chose conquest over coexistence. Now they face the consequences. Admiral Zhang softened her tone. However, not all Zathrans supported their government's actions. The young worker who helped you escape. They testified against the facility administrators. Several other Zathran have provided evidence for the tribunal. They are proving that even within the Dominion, some individuals recognize the evil of their system. Marcus remembered the young worker, the small moment of connection when he returned the dropped tool. Even in a society built on exploitation, individuals could choose differently. What happens now? Marcus asked. Now we rebuild, Admiral Zhang said. The freed systems need help establishing stable governments. They need protection while they recover. They need education, infrastructure, medical care. Earth is coordinating the largest humanitarian mission in our history. We are not colonizing. We are helping. She pulled up another display. This one showed Earth's military deployment. Ships were spread across the former Dominion space, but not as conquerors. They were protecting trade routes, training local defense forces, delivering supplies. Humanity has a choice, the Admiral continued. We can be the next empire taking the Zathran's place, or we can be something better, a species that helps others stand on their own. The President and United Nations have chosen the second path. Sarah added, Of course, we are not doing it purely from kindness. Every species we help becomes a potential ally. Every system we protect owes Earth a debt of goodwill. We are building a coalition based on mutual benefit, not conquest. It is smarter long-term. Marcus smiled. That sounded like humanity. Practical idealism. Do the right thing, but make sure it also benefited Earth's interests. It was honest, at least, in me, Marcus asked. What happens to me now? You are a hero, Admiral Zhang said. Earth wants to give you every medal we have. Universities want to hire you. Politicians want to shake your hand. You are famous, Dr. Chen. Your daughter has been on the news talking about how proud she is of you. Marcus's heart jumped. My daughter? She is fine, Sarah assured him quickly. Your whole family is fine. They have been worried, but they know you are alive. We sent them messages as soon as we rescued you. Your daughter says she wants to be a xenobiologist like her dad now. She wants to prove that humans can study other species with respect. Tears filled Marcus's eyes. He had survived. His family was safe, and maybe, just maybe, something good had come from the terrible experience. Rest, Admiral Zhang ordered. You have been through a traumatic experience. Take your time recovering. When you are ready, Earth has a job offer for you. We are establishing a xenobiology research institute, one that studies other species with their consent and cooperation. We want you to run it. Marcus nodded, unable to speak past the lump in his throat. Admiral Zhang saluted and left. Sarah stayed sitting beside his bed in comfortable silence. What about you? Marcus finally asked. What happens to you? Sarah smiled. I have been promoted. Earth is creating new special forces units trained specifically for operating in alien environments. Units that combine human tactics with knowledge from other species. They want me to train them. Apparently, fighting through that facility proved I know how to coordinate multi-species teams. You saved my life multiple times, Marcus said. Thank you. You saved mine first, Sarah replied. You gave us hope when we were prisoners. You found the weakness that let us escape. We all played our part.